Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Please like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, leave that donation for that fried rice and chicken wings. Listen, man, who's to blame for Norman Jr. and his fight with Boots collapsing? Some people are blaming the Normans, some people blame Boots, some people blame Eddie Hearn. I personally think, first let me say this, I can understand people blaming the Normans, especially when you hear that audio come out when they were negotiating and it looks like they counter-offered $2.8 million for the fight. That was the high end of what they were pursuing, but it sounds like ultimately they would have been cool with $2 million. $2 million doesn't seem unrealistic to me. And a fight for unification, especially when Jaron Boots Ennis more than likely is going to make $4 to $5 million. And especially since the ultimate goal is for him to become undisputed at 147 and then bubble up to 154. The longer Jaron Boots Ennis goes without fighting in a unification, I think there's the least chance. Yeah, I think it's least likely, less likely that he's going to become undisputed. Because if you look at him, yeah, he's still young, but I don't know how much longer he can fight at 147. Okay. Now, when you come and take a look at Jaron Boots Ennis, and fans are blaming Jaron now, they're saying, hey, look, he should have done like Earl Spence Jr. If Boots really wanted to make the fight, irregardless of what Eddie Hearn is saying or he's being advised, Boots should have said, nope. If they said $2 million is what they're good with, forget the 1.75. Go ahead, take $250,000 of my money, give it to them. That makes it the flat $2 million, and let's just make the fight happen. They feel Jaron Boots Ennis dropped the ball and is to blame because they are assuming that he's being greedy and wants all the money to himself. Now, what I'll say is, you know what? Maybe he could have done that. But there's a lot of assumptions, and there's nothing wrong with that because on this channel we just have conversations. I don't really know what happened over there with Boots. I don't really know how much money he's going to make, but I would think he's going to make between 4 and 5. 250,000 wouldn't kill him, especially when he just made some good money. He's been making okay money. So I don't see what the big deal is in this fight between him and Norman Jr., especially if he beats him, which most people believes he will. And you listen to Jaron and his team, they believe that they'll just go in there and tranquilize Norman Jr. I mean, what's the big deal if you give him an extra 250,000, especially if the fight could possibly generate, I don't know, 10 million, 12, 13 million. I don't know. I was looking, somebody was doing some numbers talking about the live gate and the endorsement deals and everything else. Bottom line, looks like it could be about a 10 to $14 million overall. So if Boots gets guaranteed $4 million and the other guy gets $2 million, you're talking about $6 million. Now you're talking about another possibly $4 to $8 million that's out there in profit. So I can understand that too. But then Eddie Hearn, that's what I'm putting the blame on. You see, Eddie Hearn's known for, saying a lot of things. And he will overpay, right? He's talked about how he's overpaid, but he said those were the things that had to be done necessarily to get him in the position and to get the zone going and to try to attract fighters, and they knew they would have to do it, overpay certain fighters to get them to come over and build up their roster as they started to expand their brand over into the United States. However, at this moment, it looks like they're done with that. And maybe on a case-by-case basis, they may overpay. Okay, cool. But does this fight between Boots and Norman not qualify for a case-by-case overpayment? I think this qualifies because you have Jaron Boots Ennis, who many of us believe is the future face of boxing and future pound-for-pound boxer. Why wouldn't you overpay and get that number to just $2 million, right? To have Boots go out here and clip him and pick up a strap. Now he's unified. Now he goes into his next fight. Should be more money on the table, more attention on Boots. Like, oh, he's a step closer to becoming undisputed. And then get another champion in the ring with him. The sanctioning bodies will cooperate with Eddie Hearn because we all know Eddie Hearn is part of the secret society, and the sanctioning bodies and Eddie Hearn have a good rapport. You don't believe me? Look at what's going on at 168. Look at where Berlanga is, ranked number 1 for the WBA, getting a shot at Canelo. Look where Pacheco is, ranked number 1 by the WBO. And anytime this week, next week, they should get the phone call that he's the mandatory to the champion, which is Canelo, right? If Berlanga beats Canelo, then Pacheco becomes a mandatory to Berlanga. So what I'm saying is Eddie Hearn has the goddamn connections. So why not just pay this man the money? Now, you could say, all right, Hood Champion, you seem to agree with all three. People blaming Boots, people blaming Norman, people blaming Hearn. How do you really feel? I think Hearn is the one ultimately to be blamed here. Because when you look at it, I don't know if Hearn really has Jaron Boots in his best interest in mind. Okay? Now, for those of you who are saying, you hold your horses, Hood Champion, you're taking it to the stupid. You all over the place with your conversation. It's because we're just talking out loud, man. You know what I'm saying? That's what happens when you don't have anything definitive to go off of, and you kind of end up going different directions with your conversation. But ultimately, the more you talk about things, you start to kind of narrow that conversation down and kind of get on a kind of the right path that can lead you to the answer. Eddie Hearn talking about putting Boots up there with Madrimov. That's why I say I'm not sure he has Boots' best interest in mind. I think Eddie Hearn, at the end of the day, he's a promoter, Matchroom, he's a brand. He has Matchroom's best interest in mind. Now, if the fighters just happen to benefit, well, then it makes Eddie look good. But I am telling you all right now, this talk about Jaron Boots Ennis fighting Madrimov, I don't like that. And if any of y'all out there are real Jaron Boots Ennis fan, y'all shouldn't like that shit either. And for those of you who say, well, Madrimov is a bum, that's an easy fight for Boots Ennis. Basically, Eddie Hearn setting up Jaron to go and cherry pick a big win at 154. You guys, unsubscribe from my channel right now. Go to them other guys' channels with the 150,000, 400,000, 400,000. Go over there with them fucking guys. Because that's where all the dumb conversation takes place. Don't come out here talking about Madrimov as a cherry pick. Let me tell you something. I think things could go horribly wrong. So I don't even like Eddie Hearn talking about that. Possibly taking Jaron and putting him in there with Madrimov. But when you look at some of the fans, when it comes to, because I just did a video, right? And the video was where I said, good teams no cheap, cheap teams no good. Basically saying, hey, Eddie Hearn, you got to pay these guys to get in the ring with Jaron Boots Ennis, okay? You can't sit there and underpay them. But anyway, some of the comments that were left on that video where people were giving their opinions on they feel who's to blame. Like Brad says, a fighter guaranteed $1 million walks home with $360K after paying everyone. $2 million for a championship isn't too high. That fight will sell $15 million easily. So he thinks Boots and what's his name? Boots and Norman would do $15 million easily. Okay. I don't know if it'll get there, but I mean it could, I guess. Jimmy says, well said. He agrees with what I shared here. QT says, Eddie Hearn understands this concept. How much did he offer Charlo to fight Andre again? How much did he pay Mikey Garcia to come to Matchroom? How much was Regis and Devin supposed to be paid? Eddie has overpaid since the beginning of time. Anyone with common sense can see through this. I'm happy when things like this happen. It exposes these promoters and emotional fans. Boots is staying at 147 to build his brand and make easy money against lesser opponents. This was a bluff by Eddie that went too far. Was everything happening here with Boots? Was that just a bluff by Eddie Hearn? It's fair to ask that question. Because if Eddie Hearn wanted this fight to happen, he would have made that fight happen. I understand Eddie Hearn's working within a budget. I understand. But again, that's just a budget. It's not like he can't go pay a little bit more. And that's not like he can't, of course, pay a little bit less. I think Eddie Hearn could have paid a little bit more. And I do think this was just, Eddie Hearn's very good at trying to build fighters' profiles. And I think this is one way for him to try to build Jaron Boots Ennis' profile, is continue to add to the growing myth that Jaron Boots Ennis is the boogeyman and everybody's afraid of him. If you listen to Eddie Hearn, he'll have you convinced Barrios ducked Boots, Stan Eunice ducked Boots, and now Brian Norman Jr. ducked Boots. The three champions outside of Boots at 147, right? According to Eddie Hearn, they've all ducked Jaron Boots Ennis. So the ultimate goal of making Jaron Boots Ennis undisputed, Eddie Hearn, who's supposed to be the self-proclaimed, sound like I got peanut butter in my fucking mouth, the self-proclaimed best promoter in boxing, he can't make a unified fight with the future pound-for-pound great Jaron Boots Ennis, the self-proclaimed best promoter in boxing, whose promotional company I think was just valued at like $1 billion, right? You telling me this man can't make a fight with Barrios, Stan Eunice, and now Norman Jr.? I think it's only fair to say maybe Eddie Hearn was bluffing. Never really wanted to make those fights. Just wanted Jaron Boots Ennis. And now he gets to do what he wants with Jaron Boots Ennis, which is have him fight his guys over there on Matchroom. Absolutely crazy. And that's why I agree with what this guy says right here. He says, Keith Davis says, promoters messing the game up. I agree. But then you got some people who feel like this guy Rocco, $1.7 million to a guy who has never been the main event on a card, has never made over $150K. You give Norman $2 million, then Barrios wants $3.5 million. Norman will end up losing to someone lesser for $200K. So Rocco believes that Norman Jr. obviously doesn't deserve a decent payday. He feels 1.75 is more than what Brian Norman deserves. Now, I understand Eddie Hearn's philosophy. Okay, you're going to look at what this person just made. We're going to offer them 10, 15, 20 times as much as what they just made. But anything more than that, the person doesn't take the fight, then they're ducking, they don't want to fight. I mean, I understand that, but still, why are we drawing the line in the sand, right? When the ultimate goal is for Jaron Boots Ennis to become undisputed at 147. Why would you go and draw the line in the sand and preclude him from getting that bout and now say, okay, we can't do that, so you can't fight the other guy, so now maybe we'll just take you up to 154. Because what's going to happen with Boots now you got Chikadzian. Now there's this talk about Boots dropping his IBF strap and just so he doesn't have to fight Chikadzian. And then he'll go on up to 154. So if you look at it, right, if you really sit back and look at this, Eddie Hearn could have possibly taken Jaron Boots Ennis from a champion at 147, right? It could go this direction. He could have taken him from being a champion at 147 to no longer being a champion at 147, moving him to 154 as an undefeated fighter, and in his first fight at 154, end up being a defeated fighter. So he could have taken him from being a champion to becoming a loser. He would have taken him from being a champion to being a non-champion with a loss. That's what the fuck it's looking like to me. And I got a problem with that. See, there's some people come out here, man, and you speak positive about Boots, they like you. You say something about Boots that, hey, I'd see this, I ain't feeling that. They unsubscribe. You ain't rocking with Philly, man. Yeah. All right, man, yo, fuck you. Get out of here then. Got this kid shit. Go to another channel, motherfucker. We have conversations here. But right now, I'm saying something about Boots, so I'm, somebody may try to, overnight me a Philly cheesesteak and shit. I don't like this. I don't like it, man. But we just gotta wait and see how it all plays out. But there are some people out here who feel, paying a guy 10 times more than his biggest payday. This guy here, he's trying to basically say that I don't know what I'm talking about. This guy, look, 1.75 million is cheap, LOL. I wouldn't even get into a conversation with these cats to try to explain myself. This guy here, Leroy, his name is Leroy. Paying a guy 10 times more than his biggest payday is being cheap. Yikes. Yeah, it is being cheap. It is being cheap. See, the problem is some of y'all can't peel the layers back. It's being cheap. And I just blame Eddie Hearn for that. Then you have this last one here. Where is it? It says, Boots would destroy Majimov, my boy Ill Will. See, I don't necessarily agree with that. This individual says, well, I want to see. So they kind of like me on that. Boots destroying Majimov, I don't know. We just got to wait and see if that's something that happens. Then this guy says, then Boots should fight Majimov. Let's see how the fight will turn out to be. Boots hasn't fought any tough opponents, and David Evanesyan is never one of the top 5 boxers in their division. This person says, sorry, I don't think so. Ilwa says, maybe you'll actually see someone challenge Boots so you can actually see them fight. Dude goes the distance with Bud, now you think he's good. So he doesn't think, Ill Will doesn't think Majimov is good. Then Rick says, Boots' scared team isn't fighting Majimov. They're going to continue to try to keep that O. And I know for a fact Boots' dad, they can say what they want. I know they know that fighting Majimov is a tough fight. Ill Will says, you mean the scared team that tried fighting all the top guys and they priced out and ran? That scary team? Majimov he's not even good, but just finally fought an uninjured fighter. So what you can see is everybody has an opinion, and opinions vary. But for me, I think it's going to be very telling on what happens with Jaron Boots Ennis as far as opponent selection for his forthcoming fight. I am really paying attention to this. It's not even about jokes for me at this point. I'm always joking on here. It ain't even about jokes right now. It's not even about hold your horses. Let's not take it to the stupid. I think this can be detrimental to the career of Jaron Boots Ennis. I really do. I mean, who wants to be governed in perpetuity by someone who's not really looking out for their best interests? And that to me is what you have with Eddie Hearn. Good talk, but let's see how that walk goes, right? Because he's talking the talk, but right now, he's not really walking the walk. He's looking to me like he may be walking Jaron Boots Ennis into a river with a bunch of man-eating crocodiles. And I don't like that. But let's see how it goes. I know he's going to pay him good money, but I just want to see how long it takes. Remember that owl in the tree? How many licks to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll Pop or whatever the hell? A 1, 2, then crunch, right? Okay, let's see. How many fights does it take for Eddie Hearn to get Jaron Boots Ennis to undisputed? 1. no title fight. 2 who? Probably no title fight. 3 he? No title fight. 4 her? All right, fuck this. What's going on here? How much? Can I keep being cheap? Pay these people, stop bullshitting. Let Jaron get that undisputed and bubble on up. But who knows? Maybe Turkey Al-Sheikh is in the background, man. Out there doing dancing in the sand and shit. Maybe they got something planned for Jaron. Maybe there's something else going on. Who knows? But right now, nothing's making sense to me. The only thing that I feel comfortable in adopting is the belief that maybe Eddie Hearn has a different agenda than what Boots and his dad have, and Eddie Hearn is going to, manipulate them into thinking that everyone else is ducking them. For Eddie Hearn to obviously land Boots in the fight Eddie Hearn wants, which is going to basically look out for Eddie Hearn and put him up against another matchroom fighter, which just happens could be Madrimov. And if he clips Madrimov, this could be Turkey Al-Sheikh too. Have him fight Madrimov. If he beats him, then make the Crawford fight. That could be a fast track to Crawford. Could be kind of how they did Edgar Berlanga. They fast tracked him to Canelo. They could be trying to fast track Boots to Crawford. I don't know. And that's what's frustrating about this. Anyway, who's to blame for the Norman Jr. fight collapsing? You blame Boots, you blame Eddie, or you blame the Normans? I'm poking my finger at Eddie Hearn. Y'all keep cool. Shout out to the veterans, all 7 continents. Yo, I'm in the breeze.